Hey guys, what is going on? So we are basically Tuesday market breakdown, and the markets have shaped up to look really good. So what we're looking at on the DXY is obviously we're still looking for that continuation to form in this section. Sorry, on the DXY we're not looking for that continuation, we're looking for this continuation to the upside, but it's still moving correctively. So we just need to give it a little bit more time. Obviously we can see this probably maybe even decline a little bit more before we see it, but you know, it's one of those things where it could easily, you know, shape up, and next thing you know we have something like that. But I'm not looking for something that large. More so I think I will be looking for the rapid movement at some point. Perhaps maybe we're coming to test the floor of this area, pull some liquidity out and then go. Not really quite sure at the moment. It is just doing what it needs to do, so I'm going to leave it. But you know, this is the sort of positioning where we were looking for the long, so it still does make sense if we do get something like a running channel to the upside. Next one is JP225. Now the JP225 is phenomenal. So we have this structure here where we have the possibility that amongst a few JPY pairs we still make that bullish move to this level here before we sell off. And essentially that is kind of what I am looking for before we you know, before we actually do get the sell. But it's still possible that we still had this section here that wasn't refilled. We're retesting that area and we sell. We just have to kind of understand that it's not a complete structure in my eyes yet, so that's why I'm looking for price to maybe come back up here before we sell. Aussie New Zealand, phenomenal entry this morning. Was basically looking at it over here for this section here, and we retraced, and now we're coming in for the second. That's the second touch. So we had the 1 2. Could be argued that this is a 1 2 3, but more so I am looking for that equal space, and so I will wait for this to come here, maybe sit down here for a bit and then push, just come up here and sell off. And that's what I'll be looking for Aussie New Zealand dollar. So I will be putting that on watch as well, but that will be more so probably towards New York session, or maybe even the evening if we get slow price action. New Zealand US dollar. Now across the board right now we're seeing the New Zealand pairs, we are getting a lot of volatility potentially building up, so we could see some movement. We are seeing that we have some news this afternoon as well, durable goods, some American news, which could cause some volatility in the market as well, so we should also be aware of that. This is actually slowly moving right now, and we do have this sort of trend here. I'm not too convinced with it, but I am looking at this as, you know, a larger structure. So let's just wait and see how this plays out, because this is a continuation to the upside, and then this can easily break and just make its way higher. So we should also understand that that's the possibility there. We have GA, which is also very nice. So we were looking at this, the larger flag, to go to the upside. Could this be the beginning of the move? We may not have to revisit for a third touch. It is what I am looking for, but we may not have to. We may see this come up here and then just continue its move. So we have started the bull run, but not yet. Can I find a nice entry? Just kind of drilling into this. There's no clear entry for me. I will be waiting. If we do arc back round and test this area one more time before we go, then at that point there, when we come back down here, we can evaluate, wait for the entry and go. If something does shape up like this, more so like that, then I could possibly look to entertain this to get to this point here, to understand that we can still come back for a short. But I do want to be positioned on the long side given the higher time frame structure and where we're potentially moving towards up here. GBP New Zealand, absolutely stunning. So we had the 1 2 3 into the override, tapping into the higher time frame structure, which we can see over here. And basically now we potentially have the room for the rejection, or we could evolve this ever so much. But I think the move to the downside is actually just is really going to start beginning now, especially across the board with a lot of these pairs. So we are accumulating a lot of price over here. We can see that this isn't the most progressive, but it did have some structure in there as well, which obviously we can break down and have a look at. Obviously it's not your cleanest piece of price action, to be honest. So then you have this sort of bit of price here. It's just, yeah, it's one of those ones where it's been very messy and very choppy. The only good entry, and I think I went over it yesterday, was here, but this could also be a good entry now because we are breaking below this trend and we are forming a little bit of continuation. If I just kind of do this, the only negative confluence I can really point out is that we're on this level here, which is on this low, which can then just form into that, and then we get this sort of larger sort of section, and then that would make sense for the short. So that's the only one thing that's keeping me out of the trade. But if we do by any means push down, create flag down here, yeah, why not? Why would you not want to take a trade there? Even if you had that low there, you'd hopefully be able to manage it to the low from here to here, and then you'd be looking to take it to that point there. So that's basically what I'll be looking for on GN. Stunning, honestly. I'm waiting for this close, which is in 13 minutes, right? So we have the 1, 2, 3 leading into this point here. Now if I zoom out to the daily, we can see that we just have this massive corrective channel, right? And obviously, you know, price leaves footprints in the market. We did come up there with quite a lot of aggression, but because we came up there with quite a lot of aggression, we can still come down with quite a lot of aggression. As we finalize into this area, we came in with a 1, 2, 3, which I do like on the 4 hour. If we do close as well, we could be potentially, well, more than likely we're not gonna leave that as the footprint, because the next candle is at 2 o'clock for the 4 hours, so it is what it is there. No, sorry, I think it's at 10 o'clock, I believe. Let's see, so yeah, we'll leave that one. So we still have about an hour before that is really put. But even if the candle is bearish and it's down here, it's good, because right now that's actually a bullish pin bar. Obviously you can't see it because it's a naked price chart, but that's a bullish pin bar, so we would still look for price to come down here somewhere, which would still be a very positive confluence in order of this bigger picture. Obviously I'm not looking at this to forever come down, but potentially even come to the 90% rule, or even to this low here. It's still a very good trade. To the low here, you can see about 10%. Wow, honestly phenomenal. So this would be the grand scheme of things of what I would be looking for. Obviously, this is something where it's extremely important to be patient as well, because this can easily just go bullish and then everything's just changed again, and then you have to be extra patient again. So you have the 1, 2, 3 leading into this section. We did have a pin bar over here, but we didn't quite get the commitment just yet. And if we get another one, it just stacks up that confluence, makes it even higher probability. And I wouldn't want to hesitate on something like that, because from time and time again, double backtesting these double patterns, they're good. So seeing it on the 15, we're just kind of just correctively sitting in this area at the moment. Still positively good sign that we haven't got any sort of corrective sort of squeeze, creating any sort of pattern, any sort of flag. There's still a lot of room for development, management, and we can see the 5 minutes shaping up as well. Even if I was going to take the 5 minute, I would still mitigate risk up here. I wouldn't take that refined position. If I was way up on my account, it's still so high risk. So waiting for NJ to shape up. Hopefully at the end of the hour we get that double pin bar. Hopefully by the end of this video we'll be able to see it and the entry will be taken. USD CAD basically waiting for that 1, 2, 3 into this section, can do whatever it needs to do, drop out, come back in, and I'll be waiting for that push up, breaking out of this, maybe back over the trend line, and then looking for continuation. It won't be that large, of course, but it's just there's a representation of what I will be looking for. And then just zooming out on the grand scheme of things, here we are. So hopefully this will be the run to take us back to the high. If not, at least it can be creating something a little bit larger before we even sell off even more. So the sell isn't completely off the table, because it is still a strong possibility we are in that bear trend, but we are consolidating sideways, and it would make sense for this range to just kind of, you know, sit in between here. So we'll be looking for that long position. Going into the wild cards, stunning position here on Aussie US dollar. We have the push up, we had the push down, we had a continuation pattern here, push down, next continuation pattern we're looking for. As we can see across the Aussie pairs, we are looking for that 1, 2, 3. So I am just waiting in anticipation for a completion on this. I'm not going to be looking to take that entry, but I would be waiting for, you know, whatever it has to do, come back up, and then an entry like that. I think that would be very nice. The nice thing about it is there isn't really any sort of hook points or anything to kind of just gravitate towards if we do push a little bit higher. So we could wait for the retrace, or if we do get a structured approach, take a message from the market. So that's basically what I'm looking at on Aussie US dollar. And then Aussie Swiss, similar action, but I think the flag will be somewhat different. I will be looking for this to kind of just correctively come back down and then come back up, and then take that, understanding that we do have sort of liquidity price over here, so we can gravitate towards that before we sell off. Hence the reason I would maybe even opt in for pin bar or retrace on the other Aussie related pairs, because we might see something like that happening. USD ZAR, so with the DXY selling off, it's just not yet fully ready, but I think this could be the angle. So I'm seeing over here we had this 1, 2, 3, and then we had this sort of bear flag sort of section over here, and then we're getting something quite similar here, which I've seen many times across the board with many pairs. And structurally, I think, you know, this isn't your best sort of type of flag, especially if you were taking it to the downside. You know, would you opt in for that trade? Probably not. But what I am seeing is that, and it's still possible that we might have something like this. And if we do get something like that, where price does come up and then comes back down, and then starts to, so it goes up, comes back down, and then pushes up, creates a flag, and then starts to move, you know, then you could understand what's actually, you know, possible there. But that's quite a large flag, but it could give us a lot of momentum built up to make that move. So it's one thing that I'll keep in mind. But yeah, I think that bear flag is probably your best bet. It's just not the best angle, so I wouldn't really be taking a trade off that. CAD yen, phenomenal. It's coming into this value area. We have a nice arc. This is one I think as well could easily go miss. I think for this one, I'm not going to put it on watch until we've tagged it, because then it's just a waste of my time just looking at it, not looking at it, whatever. Just set that alert. I'm going to wait for this to tag its high, and then when it does, I'll know when to be ready. Obviously, we may be a few days away from it, maybe even next week, but it's there, it's ready. I know what I'm going to be doing. Essentially, insurance entry, push up, push back down on the flag. Euro Swiss, sorry, that's not anywhere near ready yet. There was an entry over here though, which I'll show you, where we had this sort of liquidity area. We pushed in, pushed away. It's just not a trade that I'm looking for, to be honest. You can see it clear on the 1 hour. So we pushed down, we created this nice formation over here, and you could have taken this trade, yeah, this trade right here. Wanted to mitigate your risk, it would have been slightly large, but I would have probably opted in for just about 18, and yeah, you'd be running about 1 point something. But like I said, it's not my type of trade. And New Zealand CAD, yes, New Zealand CAD. Now there's multiple ways I'm looking at this. I think this one's a little bit more advanced as well. Perhaps maybe I've made a mistake, I'm not reading through it properly. That's why this one's a little bit of a tricky one, because the first touch isn't as clear as day. But looking at how the New Zealand pairs are all gearing up, it's very possible either we get a small push up and we come back down, or we just sell off from here. And this little build of liquidity over here is more than enough now. So I am waiting to see that very closely. I think I'm looking at this as something like that, because if you look closely over here, we had similar price action with this little hook point over here, but we didn't quite tap into it. We got very close, but the override was more than enough. So we kind of just hit the override and sold off. I'm seeing something similar here, but we have smashed through and closed above the override, which is the only negative confluence there. And you have got a clear first touch, where you don't really have that here. But by using this tool, which is your bar tool, I'm basically looking at something like that, which is essentially, it kind of does fit. And yeah, essentially we had the push down, we came back up a little bit, we tapped into that, came down, and yeah, essentially we're in this area now. Because we're so close, it's possible, but last time we didn't even go anywhere near it. That's why I think that this area could be the area where we do sell off and we don't come into the hook point. So just wanted to bear that in mind, because patterns do tend to repeat themselves, and if it happened previously, it's possible it happens again. So positioning over here could be very strategic and smart, but at the same time it does come with a bit of risk. The next one is Swiss yen. I think Swiss yen definitely needs a bit of time. I am waiting for it to kind of just push up, but if it does sell off and then we get a flag, we'll take a message from the market. Waiting for the larger correction here. So as I've drawn, push down, tap into the low, push back up to the high, and then look for the sell. Go back to EG. If we go to the daily, we can actually just see it a little bit more clearer. The negative confluences, we are sitting at the low, right? But the thing is, if we do get that tap into here, rejects, push down on the flag, we have more than enough to maybe even manage ourselves to see if this doesn't commit. So that's the risk that comes with this one. This is a little bit more higher risk than the usual one, but we have to understand that this can easily start making its way down here, and then we push through that. I think GJ is good. GJ is really good. The only thing about this is we haven't yet got the full structure formed. So I am waiting for price to come back down now. I was looking for something like that, where we come back down now, tap into this, maybe even create a mini double bottom or something in here, and then we go. I think the low is going to be roughly around about here. This can just trickle and do its thing though, so you don't want to get caught into bad price action, but we know where the potential floor is, and we know where we could potentially be positioning ourselves. USD yen is exactly the same. We've got a push above where we were before, and we could be creating continuation. We just have to wait to see how it forms. Euro USD, very much like the DXY, it's just too premature at the moment. We're still waiting for structure to be developed. It is giving me that sort of expanding feeling to it, but this angle is a little bit crazy, you know, looking at it like that. It's not really my type of angle, so I'm going to be waiting patiently to see if structure can develop even further, and then we can actually read through it and then look for an entry. And then we have GBP USD. GBP USD actually created a nice structure over here, which I was evaluating, but not one that I was willing to take. I'm basically looking at that as a section over here, and then wanted to just see if, you know, it's just working in these very tight continuations and just moving, and then we get an aggressive sell-off. We're down here, we create a flag, and then next thing you know, we're selling. So that's just something I was looking at, but more than likely, I think this could easily scoot back up for one more touch before we sell, or easily create a large flag before we keep going higher. And then we have Euro New Zealand. Now, the thing about this is, right, I'm looking at the New Zealand pairs as a counter pair to obviously Japanese yen and so forth, and what I'm seeing over here is like we created a floor, we tapped into it, and we're getting a push away. If the New Zealand pair starts to obviously lose strength, then obviously these pairs are going to start gaining value. So then I was going over and I was looking at New Zealand pairs. Okay, this is potentially gearing up for a short. New Zealand CAD, New Zealand yen potentially gearing up for a short. And let's just quickly see, the hourly candle was about to close. Still looking pretty good, still looking very good. And then we go over to currencies, and we can see here on the currencies, if we go to the New Zealand pairs, we can see New Zealand Swiss as well. I haven't really had a chance to analyze this one, but New Zealand US dollar, we can see it's in the area. The overrides here could be gearing up for a short as well, or could be gearing up for a long. Not all of them are going to be correlating, but then we look at the counter pairs. We're in the very good valuable area here. GBP starts going short, or could potentially bounce back. This was very corrective. And then looking at another one, Aussie New Zealand, we're still in that corrective price action. So, you know, there is that sort of context of things there. And let's just have a little look at how we closed. Okay, so we are very good. Still pretty good, to be honest. Even though that was bullish, that was bullish and that was bullish. We're still looking pretty nice, to be fair, for the short. So I wouldn't really cross that off. I think that's still very much valid. Looking at it over here, yeah, we may be very good. New Zealand CAD as well. Yeah, it looks like the selling is beginning. So yeah, I mean, all in all, it's pretty good trades, you know. Honestly, I think we're going to see some good momentum in the market now. Well, now we just need to really evaluate here. If we get commitment and we start creating some opportunity, that's where you want to be looking to get really involved as well. More than likely though, we might even just get commitment and sell off, but here's your little small tight flag, so I think that becomes a little bit more valid now at this point, and then we might get another one and so forth. So guys, that basically summarizes the watch list and wildcards that I have for this week. I think we have a phenomenal week. I'm going to be doing some ASR today, you know, going over my month, making sure that there's any major tweaks or anything that I need to, you know, basically do to improve. I'm going to be doing them. So guys, thanks for watching. Have a lovely week, and I'll catch you in the next video.